Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the most common phrasal verbs. My name is Charles, and I am going to be your host for today's webinar. I hope you are all doing well, that you have had a great week so far this week, as we are almost to the end of our weeks. And of course, I'm wishing you all the best. For those of you who are here with us live, I would like to kindly ask you just if you can hear me and you can see me. So please do let me know how our connection is by saying something in our chat. So for those of you who are here with us live right now, please go ahead and let me know how our connection is just by saying something quickly in our chat box. You can say hi, you can say hello, or maybe even go ahead and let me know what is your favorite free time activity. For example, for me, just to get to know me a little bit more, I guess I love to read books and I love to exercise. Those are probably two of my favorite free time activities. What about for all of you guys? So far, though, for those of you who are here with us live, it seems that our connection is good. That's amazing. Hello, Katajina. Hello, Emma. Hello, Greg. Hello, Marta. Hello, Barbara. Hey, Alicia, and so many more names. I won't be able to go over everyone's name, but just know that if you are here, I do see you, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you. If this is our first time getting to know each other, it's amazing to meet you. My name is Charles. Like I mentioned, I'm one of the Tutlo tutors here on the platform for the past few years now, and I am also part of our webinar host team, which is, of course, why you see me here today. And for those of you who are here, maybe let me know, where are you located now? So where are we all joining each other from today? For example, for me, I am joining you today from my country of the Philippines. We are a Southeast Asian country located around here on your map. If you're unfamiliar with where the Philippines is, we're, like I said, a small little island nation in the southwest part of southeast part of Asia, right? And we absolutely are well known for our beaches, and that is one of my favorite free time activities as well. And some people are saying they enjoy running, they love cycling, Nordic walking, shopping. That's amazing. And hey, someone's joining us from the southeastern part of Poland. That's amazing. Cities like Krakow, there's people from Warsaw. That's amazing. So I am here on our map, and it seems that everyone so far for today is located roughly in this area. So we are on opposite sides of the world, but we're still able to join each other today. So that's amazing. That's awesome that we're able to do this with each other and to get to connect with one another, whether that's through hobbies like theater and reading, or just getting to know each other through topics such as our webinar for today. So before we continue into anything, let me just quickly go ahead and explain what to expect during today's webinar. We're going to obviously be talking about phrasal verbs, since today's topic is about the most common phrasal verbs. Now, obviously, we're not going to be able to cover all of them, but we're going to start off by understanding what exactly a phrasal verb is. How can we understand it? What makes a phrasal verb a phrasal verb? So whether you are very familiar with phrasal verbs already, or this is your first time learning about phrasal verbs, don't worry. No reason to get intimidated. We're going to spend time making sure we all get on the same page so we all understand what exactly a phrasal verb is. And like I said, with today's webinar title, we're talking about what makes phrasal verbs common. So we want to make sure we go ahead and go over how do I know if this is a common phrasal verb or not, and be able to understand what they mean. Like I said, we're not going to be able to go over all of the most common phrasal verbs because there is a lot, but we're going to go over some that you're going to encounter more often than others and in specific situations. And because they are common and popular, a lot of them can be actually very similar. So we want to be able to make sure we do know the differences between what these phrasal verbs mean. Because like I said, just because they're common doesn't mean they are easily recognizable, if I might say. So we want to be able to make sure we know how this phrasal verb is different from this phrasal verb so that we're able to just understand that. All right? So I hope that clearly explains just what to expect during our discussion today. But just a couple quick reminders for those of you who are here with us today. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, welcome. Our webinars typically are around 30 minutes long. So we started today at around 7:30 p.m., which means we'll finish within the next 20 to 25 minutes at around 8 p.m. And along with that, I encourage all of you here to use our chat. Our chat is going to be open for the duration of today's webinar. So as I'm speaking, go ahead, you can use our chat, make comments about what we learned. We'll have some activities we can do together later on today. And along with that, we'll be able to, of course, make sure we answer any questions you might have. So don't hesitate. If something is unclear, please do let me know, and I'll do my best to make sure that I can clear it up for you. And we'll even have a Q&A for a few minutes at the end of today's webinar, where if you do have a question, I'll make sure to go ahead and answer it for you. All right? So we've explained what to expect for today, and I see a few more people have joined us. Let's go ahead, dive into it. You guys have just joined us at the right time. Let's explain what exactly a phrasal verb is. So a phrasal verb is best explained as a phrase made up of a word and a verb. So what exactly should we break it down into? All right, so let's break it down into a few things. Let's understand first what a phrase is. So a phrase is used also outside of phrasal verbs. When I have a phrase, it simply means a group of words, typically 2 or 3, put together, and they have one meaning. With normal vocabulary words, right, one word has one meaning. But in a phrase, you can have 2, maybe 3 words, and they only have one meaning. So that's what makes a phrase a phrase. And a phrasal verb is 2 or 3 words made of a verb and a word or words. So you'll have a verb, maybe another word, and those two combine and have one meaning. Maybe sometimes you'll run into a phrasal verb that has maybe 3 words, but for the most part, they are just 2 words put together. So you might be asking, okay, it's quite simple. Why is this something that can be difficult to learn? Well, they can be difficult to learn because they are similar to idioms in how we learn them. If you're familiar with idioms, they are, for example, I'll send an example of an idiom in the chat, like it is raining cats and dogs. That's my personal favorite idiom to use. And if I say it's raining cats and dogs, it does not mean cats and dogs are falling from the sky. It just means that it is raining very hard. So the definition compared to the words are completely different. If you're familiar with idioms, maybe let me know in the chat what is an idiom that you know, and we'll be able to just have a broader view of just sometimes how different an idiom can be from its definition. So that's what makes phrasal verbs a little bit difficult to learn, whether you're a native speaker or you're learning the language. It's because a lot of the times the meaning of the phrase in the phrasal verb does not have any logical sense. It doesn't make any sense at all, actually. Like, for example, someone said in the chat, bring home the bacon. That is a very popular phrasal verb. Sorry, not popular phrasal verb, a popular idiom. And it just means to make money for the household, right? You bring home the bacon. There's a lot of other phrasal verbs or idioms that have kind of strange meanings, right? Like have a nest egg and all those kinds of things. Because, for example, here are 2 popular phrasal verbs. You have, for example, break off. And that means to end a relationship. Like, for example, if you break off things with Zoe, it means you end the relationship with Zoe. But if you look at those 2 words, break is the verb here, and off is the preposition. right? Break means to do this. And off means not on, right? But if you break something off, it means to end a relationship. Or for example, you can even have something like call off. And call off means to cancel something planned. But if you break it into two, again, call is, you call someone. Off is you are not on something. But when you put them together, you put call and off together, it means to cancel something planned. So a lot of the times with phrasal verbs, you're not going to be able to understand the definition just by the words that you see. It's just like the other idioms in the chat, like someone saying, not my cup of tea, or see eye to eye, or to hang out. If you look at those phrases or those idioms, there's no logical sense to the meaning. So we have to make sure we go ahead and go and learn them and do our best to write them down and review them, practice them with your tutor or teacher, however it is for you, because it takes time to memorize them. And at the end of the day, I don't know all the phrasal verbs out there or idioms out there. There might be a few that are very, how do I say it, niche or not commonly used. So I don't expect you to memorize all the ones we have today. But if you do have a notebook, do go ahead, write it down. If you do have time to practice them later with a teacher, that it would be amazing. Because practice does help us improve. So we've kind of answered the first question, what a phrasal verb is. But the second question is, what makes today's phrasal verbs very common? Well, what makes common is that certain verbs and prepositions are going to be repeatedly used in phrasal verbs, and that can be very confusing. For example, the two phrasal verbs we just went over, break off and call off. Both of them use the preposition of off, but I change the verb, and that changes everything. It's the same thing. If I have the same verb, but a different preposition, it changes everything. And that can be very confusing because they are very similar. Like, for example, we have break off, which is to end the relationship, but I can also break in, which means to break into a house that is closed. Or I can break up with someone. I can also end the relationship with them, right? I can call off something, right? I can cancel it, but if I break off, I end the relationship, right? There's all those little nuances that you do have to get familiar with. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover phrasal verbs that are similar with their verbs. All right, so the first part of the phrasal verb, we'll make sure to go over and explain what it means and give you all time to write it down, make it memorize, because we will practice them later on. All right, so let's get into it. We'll start off with our first pair, and we'll use the word bring. So today, our first phrasal verb is to bring up. If I bring up someone, I raise a child till adulthood. Like I'm bringing up my kid, or I'm bringing up my son. I'm bringing up Joshua. It means to raise the child till adulthood. So from their birth till their adulthood, I am bringing them up. I bring up my child, right? I bring up. And again, logically, the definition does not make sense, but because it is a phrasal verb, it means to raise a child till adulthood. And if I switch the second part of that phrasal verb from up to down, and I bring down someone, it means I make someone unhappy and depressed. Maybe I say mean things to them, or I do bad things to them, and I bring them down. I bring down their maybe emotional state. But one unique thing with a phrasal verb like this is I can put that person's name or a personal pronoun here. Like I can say, I'm going to bring Joshua down. It means I'm going to make Joshua feel unhappy. But I can also say, I can bring down Joshua. It means I can make him unhappy as well. So that's a little nuance just to keep in the back of your minds. I can say I bring someone down, or I bring down someone, or a name. Both work fine. All right. But remember, bring up is to raise a child till adulthood. But if I bring down someone, I make them unhappy and depressed. But if I call up someone, it's quite actually simple. I just contact them by their phone, right? I call them up. It's quite simple. So yes, this is a phrasal verb that if you look at, you can probably just logically define what it means to call up a person. It just means to contact them through their phone. And like I mentioned, we're going to take time to look at two pairs. And we looked at one earlier, and that's to call off. And that's to cancel something that is planned. So again, like I said, today's phrasal verbs, the verbs are the same, but the second term is different, whether it's a preposition or another word, right? So if I call up someone, I'm calling them. If I call off, I cancel something that is planned. Our next pair will be using the verb come. For example, if something is going to come up, it means an event that is about to happen. Like, for example, if I can say, our vacation is coming up, it means our vacation is about to happen. Or, for example, if I say, my deadline is coming up, it means my deadline is about to happen. Whether, like, for example, for this man, it's circled on, I believe that is March 15, right? So it's about to come up. It's about to happen. But if I come across something, it just means I find something, but by chance or simply by accident. I wasn't trying to get into it or find it, but I came across it. So that's one thing to do take note of. If you do have a phrasal verb and you have to change the tense, you change the tense of the verb from come to came, like I came across. So it's past tense, but across stays the same. It's just like any other grammatical thing. If the tense change, the verb change. But just keep that in mind. All right, I don't change anything else when it comes to the phrasal verb. I just change the tense of the verb. For example, like from come to coming to came. All right. So that's our pair for using the verb come. Something is going to come up, like an event is about to happen, or I am going to come across something where I find something by chance. Now, our next one will be using the word drop, the verb drop. Like, for example, I have my bottle here, and I drop it, right? But if I drop in somewhere, I am making a casual visit to someone. Like, for example, maybe my sister lives in the same city as me, and I just want to spend some time with her, so I'm going to drop in her house, right? I'm going to drop in and say hi, or I'm going to drop in and maybe give her some food, something like that, right? It also could be used with a drop by. Those two phrasal verbs are actually identical. I didn't think about it till now, but if I take out the word in and I use the word by, that is completely okay. It means the same thing. I'm going to drop by, I'm going to make a casual visit, or I'm going to drop in. Both are acceptable. Now, the second part of using the word drop is to drop off something. Like I take someone or something to a place and I leave it there. Like, for example, I'm going to drop off my kids at school, or I'm going to drop off this package at your house. I'm going to take something to a place and leave it there. I'm going to drop off. But now let's transition. We still have two more pairs to go over. Our next verb uses the word fill. And fill in typically means to complete a form. Like, for example, maybe you're applying for a job, you're at the hospital, you're taking a survey, whatever it is, and they give you a form, and you have to fill it in. Or I can also say I have to fill out a form. So fill in or fill out. So in and out are complete opposites, but they both mean to complete a form. Whether that's your name, some information, some choices, whatever it is. I have to fill it in. But if I choose in and I remove it and I use the word up, it becomes fill up. And that means I have to make something become completely full. Like, please fill up my glass. It just means to please fill my glass with water or soda or iced tea, whatever it is. I have to fill up my drink. All right. So we made it off to our last pair of phrasal verbs using the verb give. Like, for example, a very popular phrasal verb with give is to give up. Like, I cease to give effort and I accept failure. Like, I'm going to give up going to the gym. It just means I'm going to quit. going to the gym. And I can give into that impulse. I can agree to something after first refusing. Like, for example, this man is about to give into his desire to go ahead and eat sweets, right? Maybe he chooses not to, but he's going to give into it. All right? So I know that was a lot to take in. Phrasal verbs can be very tricky, but there's a very good Chinese proverb to encourage you. It says, learning is a treasure that will follow its owner everywhere. The more you learn English, the more you take time to practice even something as difficult or nuanced as phrasal verbs. Even here today, you're doing a great job. The learning you do now will follow you in the future. So keep it up, guys. Keep practicing. I know it was a lot, all right? But let's practice together for a little bit, as I've done quite a lot of speaking over the past few minutes. Up on your screen, you see an incomplete sentence. And we have two phrasal verbs we've learned today that use the same verb, but we have to choose the correct one to fill in the sentence. So we have number one. It says, please blank my glass. Our two options are fill in and fill up. So can you let me know in the chat, what do you think the proper answer is? Is it letter A or is it letter B? Do we fill in or fill up? All right, so I see some answers in the chat. Awesome, awesome. I'll give maybe 5 more seconds before we move on to number 2. For those of you who answered letter B, fill up, that is correct. Because remember, fill up, I am going to use that, for example, like filling up a glass. Very good job. Let's try one more. It says, I blank my old childhood photos. Are we going to say I came up my old childhood photos, or I came across my old childhood photos? Let me know which one is the correct answer, A or B. And then we'll move on to the last portion of today's webinar, as our time is slowly coming to a close. So I'll give you all some time, maybe 10 seconds or so, and then we'll move on with today's webinar. All right. So I see everyone's answers in the chat. Everyone's doing really well. That's amazing. Yes, we would probably go with came across. Again, come across, we changed tense, and we made it to came across. So that is the correct answer. Great job, everyone. That's awesome. A couple quick reminders before we transition to today's last part of our webinar. Remember, how do we understand phrasal verbs? Well, remember, they are a phrase, a group of words put together, but they have one meaning. So they are made of a verb and a word or another word, and they're put together, but they have the same meaning. They are not individualized. And remember, common phrasal verbs are going to have repetition in either the verb or the preposition. But if one of those changes, the definition changes. So keep in mind how to use them properly, whether that's in context or changing tenses. All right? And we still have a few minutes left today because we want to go ahead and do a quick Q&A. So don't go anywhere. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. And of course, I will do my best to answer your questions. And as we wait for any questions, one thing I would greatly appreciate your help in is filling out the poll on your screen. We just want to know, did this webinar help you in your learning? Was it useful for you? Please take some time to fill it out, as it is definitely really helpful for us, as it will help us understand what you appreciate from the learning of the webinars or the topics or how the webinars are for you, so we can do our best to cater to your needs. All right? And maybe we'll fill out one more poll as we wait for any possible questions. It just asks, would you like to participate in a similar event in the future? You know, if you are interested, we do our webinars, so find a topic that you would love to join, and who knows, maybe we'll see each other through another webinar in the future, or even a lesson on the platform, right? Or if you don't see me in the webinars, you'll see the rest of our wonderful webinar team that would love to be able to learn with you. So thank you all for filling out those polls, and I don't see any questions. So before we wrap up today, I encourage you to just check us out on our Facebook, our LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. We are present on social media to keep you updated about anything happening here at Tutlo. We post some fun facts, some learning tips, and so much more. So check us out on our social media. Until next time, everyone, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a blast. You were an amazing crowd. Thank you for making today a fun webinar. Until next time, stay safe as always, and goodbye for now.